Chapter 59. I was standing at my locker before school started. I had gym class first period and I was hoping that we'd play volleyball. When it was my time to serve, I'd smack that ball so hard over the net that I jerked as David came up behind me and said, "Hey." I turned away from my locker to look at him. Sometimes he just seemed like a smart aleck that I should punch. "Why are you talking to me in school? You never do that." "Oh my God, what will people think?" I asked very sarcastically. He was tall, brown-haired, athletic. He hung out with the jocks, although he wasn't good friends with any of them. I'd whipped one of those jocks' asses in the past because he'd tried to trip me. I'm standing here wondering that too. You sure don't make a person feel welcome. You could talk to me sometimes at school instead of ignoring me. I'm doing that right now and you're not taking it very well. "Go away," I remarked. If he had that kind of attitude, then I didn't want to talk to him. I turned back to my locker. I'd gotten my gym bag out and was ready to go to my homeroom. I shut the locker door. "You promised that you let me practice taking pictures of you." I stared blankly at him. I had already forgotten that promise. I was hoping he'd take the hint and leave. "I made you and your dad dinner, remember? When are we going to do a photo shoot?" I raised my eyebrows at him. "I'm a photographer for the yearbook. It's not like I'm going to take a bad picture of you," he added. I ignored him. "Yeah, Saturday does sound good. I'll pick you up around 11, he continued. I scrunched my face up at him, but he said bye and quickly retreated. I sighed heavily. I had thought I'd get out of that promise. Maybe I was losing my touch. In gym class, that volleyball was going to be David's face and his camera, since technically he was my friend and I couldn't punch him. Kevin came over early Saturday morning and he helped me and Daddy with some chores around the ranch. Then we took a ride to the Tractor Supply store. The sun was out and it was in the 50s. We had just put the supplies in the garage when David drove up. Daddy and Kevin greeted him. "You have grease on your face," he greeted me. I swiped my hand where I thought the grease might be. "What are you up to today?" Daddy asked him. David looked tentatively at me. "I'm going to practice taking pictures of people, and these two volunteered to be my models." I blinked and frowned. I had totally forgotten. "Oh, that'll be fun. Be sure and capture that look she just gave you," Daddy replied as he popped the hood on his truck. He was chuckling. "I didn't know that's what we were doing," Kevin remarked. "You're not really going to make me do this," I half stated, half asked. I just knew he was picturing me wearing a dress or something worse, imposing me in ungodly ways. I shuddered thinking about it. I handed Daddy a bottle of motor oil. "Oh yeah, you promised." I watched Daddy pour the oil into the engine. I was still hoping to get out of the picture taking. "That sounds like fun for you," Daddy remarked. He was pointing out the most scenic places on our ranch, complimenting him for all the previous pictures he's taken of me when I wasn't being cooperative. I almost stopped breathing. He just liked those boys too much. He always seemed to be agreeing with them. If I led them way into the woods, they might not find their way back. "Good idea, Mr. DeVito," David agreed. "You'll need to wash the grease off your face and put on some presentable clothes," he said to me. Daddy was telling him to call him Daddy or Zeke, whatever he felt comfortable with. "Your family now." Wow, family? Things were worse than I had thought. After some grumbling, I was washing my face and they were waiting downstairs for me. David was yelling for me to bring some clothes downstairs so he could pick out what he wanted me to wear. So that took at least 20 minutes because he sent me up and down the stairs 4 times. Does she really not have anything cute to wear? All she's showing us are t-shirts with bands on them and the blue jeans. She will look so fucking gorgeous in some cute clothes. If she brings down one more t-shirt with Aerosmith on it or some other band, I'm going to strangle her, I heard him mumble to Kevin when he thought I couldn't hear them. Their voices were filtering up through the floor vent. I glanced at the t-shirt with ZZ Top on it that was in my hand and hung it back up on the hanger. I glanced at the floor vent. Kevin was chuckling. I couldn't believe that he didn't know that I didn't wear any girly clothes. I didn't much wear torn for fashion jeans, but I had a pair. I picked them out and paired them with a blue and green shirt that wasn't a t-shirt. Daddy said it matched my eyes. I went ahead and put them on along with my brown cowboy boots. "Now that's more like it," David remarked as I came down the stairs. "Very cute," Kevin agreed. He was wearing jeans, cowboy boots, and a blue flannel shirt with a white t-shirt under it. I had been wearing a similar ensemble before I was forced to change clothes. "What about him?" I asked David, referring to Kevin. "He needs to change too." "Oh, I don't care about him," he remarked. He was mostly teasing. They got into a playful scuffle then. We walked to one of my favorite wooded areas of our property. Fir trees were all around us. I liked them because they didn't shed their needles in the winter. They stayed all pretty and green. I was standing by a tree and the sun was coming from behind me. David was telling me where to put my hands and to lean into the tree. The camera flash went off. "See? I like the backlight, and the flash exposed your face nicely. And you're very natural at posing," he said as he showed me the picture on back of the camera. Digital cameras had just come out the year before and were pretty expensive. I supposed his parents had bought it for him, even though he knew they hated him. I mumbled. "Yeah, I looked good. I never even had to try. I would have looked better in my Aerosmith t-shirt, though, mostly courtesy of Steven Tyler." He took some more pictures of me. "Can you stop with the deer in the headlights look? Why can't you smile?" he asked. Kevin stepped in to tickle me and I laughed, but when the flash hit me twice more, I held him back. David griped some more about my expression. I was tiring of his photo shoot. "Oh, come on. Can't you pretend you're on the cover of Cosmo or something? You're so pretty," Kevin remarked to me. "Yeah, work it, girl," David said as he moved me to a different spot around the firs. I cooperated for a while. I smiled, I pouted, I gave blank stares of women magazine ads, all on cue. "Now give me the smoldering look that you'd give a lover," David instructed. I raised my eyebrows at that instruction. The shutter clicked. "Not that look." I rolled my eyes. The shutter clicked. "Still not what I'm looking for." I gave what he thought he was looking for. The shutter clicked several times. "That's a killer shot," he commented at his own work as he looked at the back of the camera. "Your eyes are so incredibly blue and sparkly. I wish I was as hot as you are." He and Kevin studied the picture. "Yeah, me too," I snickered. I stepped over to them to look. The shot was cropped like a headshot. It was no wonder my eyes looked so big. At that moment, my beauty was exasperating to me. In all the fairy tales, the princesses were beautiful and they ended up with happy lives where people loved and bonded with them. It just wasn't my life at all. "Am I too big to fit in a fucking frame or what?" I griped at him in aggravation of my life. "You're so stupid, such a stupid little brat," David mumbled. "Why don't you know you're beautiful?" Kevin asked me in all seriousness, ignoring David's anger. I was going to snap at him, but then I found myself saying, "Because it's never got me anywhere. People hate me. My peers have hated on me since I moved here at 5 years old. And I know I'm good looking. Why should I care if it doesn't help my life?" "You got us. We're your friends. And a lot of people like you rather than hate you," he replied. He was right that the three of us were friends. I nodded at that assessment and accepted it. He unexpectedly hugged me, and I went to shake him off. "Come on, hugs make you feel that friendship. It will make you feel better," he said. "What's the big deal? Nobody's around to see it," David reasoned. "Okay, just this once," I agreed. Kevin hugged me and I reluctantly put my arms around him. He was hugging me tightly then, and he had an erection. "Okay, Scary," I pulled away. "I am not hugging you," I warned David as he closed in. Kevin closed in too, and it turned out to be a threesome hug. They laughed about that. "Shut up," I told them, but I allowed it for a brief moment. David took pictures of the both of us and a few of Kevin by himself. Then he had Kevin take a few pictures of me and him. Then he wanted more of us taken because he was arguing with me over my expression. Men. Sigh. Daddy was really pleased with the pictures, and he gave David money to print them for us. You ought to break out the baby pictures of her and show us. I bet her tantrums were a sight to see. The ones we've seen lately have been total meltdowns, Kevin joked. Daddy looked taken aback. I guess we don't have many pictures of Angel from the past years. I don't have any from when she was a baby. She was 4 years old when I finally located her at the orphanage. Bob interrupted the conversation by dropping by to visit. I was glad. I didn't think me or my dad had thought much of taking pictures of us, or me, during the years I'd lived with him. I had school pictures and a few from any birthday or Christmas that we spent with Bob and Nancy, and that was about it. I was conflicted on whether that was good or bad. I soon found that the contest I'd sent my picture into had picked me as the winner. In 2 weeks, I'd be in California. When I went over to Rick's to practice a new song with the band, I told them the news. Carol reacted rather badly. What? How did you win? She demanded. I don't know, I replied as I shrugged my shoulders. I just had my picture taken and sent it in. She won because she's so cute, Kevin exclaimed as he hugged me excitedly. See, I told you I'm a good photographer, David said. I'm glad you won. Too bad you can't take me with you as your personal photographer, he said as he pulled me against him in an unexpected one-armed hug. Thanks, maybe next time, I said as I tried to decide how I felt about the hugs. There were a few other things said, but it was obvious that Carol wasn't happy with me winning. Daddy and I flew to California and were picked up by a town car and taken to a plush hotel in the heart of Hollywood. Bianca, who was a representative of the Cardello Company, treated us to lunch at a really famous restaurant. She pointed out several well-known people as well as a few celebrities. Johnny Depp was one of them. We could see him across the room in deep conversation with several people. Later, as he and his party were leaving the restaurant, they passed by our table. He made eye contact with me, and so I told him hi. Hi, he replied back smiling, and they walked on. While my dad just stared at me, Bianca smiled. You fit right in, she said. Wow, I had just talked to Johnny Depp. We went to shoot a TV commercial about 2 hours later. I was supposed to glide past the camera and give them a cool but slightly seductive look, and then turn around with a quick swing of my head so my hair cascaded my shoulders. The only bad part was they had me wear a size smaller than I usually wear so that the jeans were tight. I like to be able to move and breathe when I wear clothes, and in a smaller size it was hard to do. I knew right then that I wanted this kind of life. I intended on doing everything possible except posing in my birthday suit to get it. The commercial shoot took about an hour for my part. Then Bianca brought out 5 pairs of Cardella jeans for me and took us back to our hotel. Daddy and I walked around the area of the hotel seeing what was there, and then we had dinner at the hotel restaurant. Cardella was picking up the tab. I was amazed at how much our meal had cost. I imagined the hotel was costing them a fortune. I couldn't believe that I was really going to be in a TV commercial. The next morning, Bianca picked us up and took us to a photo shoot where I modeled jeans for magazine ads. It took about 3 hours and there was a bit of waiting in between shots. I found it very interesting. I was pleasant to everyone that I met and worked with. Daddy said that he'd seen more improvement in my personality than he'd ever dreamed possible. I didn't have the heart to tell him that all the modeling took was acting, and that the real stuff like keeping the friendship between me and the band was far harder than it looked. Before we left, Bianca gave my dad for $5,000, which was part of my winnings from the contest. They had also talked to my dad about me working for them as a model. He nixed it and they told me to call them when I turned 18. I didn't know if I would do that, but it was cool to have that option. Once we returned home, Daddy asked me to talk to Yellow and see what the best investment was for the money I'd earned. I told him of one that would do great, but wasn't really on the up and up. Will we get in trouble, he asked. I thought it over a minute. Not if we only invest for 6 months, I replied. And so it was a done deal. Carol was envious of my modeling excursion. As soon as I was back among the band, I found myself in the midst of sarcastic remarks. Do you think you can stand being around us ordinary people now that you're a star? She asked. I was hurt. I guess I hadn't expected Carol to treat me any differently. I pacified her by giving her some of the jeans. After that, I didn't mention anything about the photo shoot or the ads that appeared about a month later. I only supplied answers when someone specifically asked me about them. Some of the kids in school who had never spoken to me before were really nice when asking me about the experience. Some were worse than Carol. I noticed that whenever we got together to practice, most of the conversation turned to the topic of sex. Rick's parents were rarely home, so we could talk. I was glad too because I couldn't stand Rick's mom. She was a wacko and she hated me. Cole and David bragged about the adventures they'd had, although I highly suspected David was still a virgin. Kevin had started dating someone, but they hadn't done it yet. Rick and Carol flaunted the fact that they were doing it. I'd even accidentally walked in on them when they were in the living room doing each other, but thinking that they were alone. I had arrived for practice at Rick's house and found David and Kevin talking in the garage about sports. They were in deep discussion, so I went upstairs to find what was holding up Rick and Carol. I didn't think to yell out as they came up the stairs. I just opened the door. When I looked around the corner, I was totally shocked to see Carol buck naked riding Rick. I hadn't even thought of that position. I stood and stared for a few seconds, feeling sick and jealous at the same time. They didn't notice me. I turned and went back downstairs. Kevin and David didn't even notice that I'd gone anywhere. I talked with Kevin, complaining that I felt stupid because I'd never had sex. He said he had something that would help, and he'd stop at my house after school the next day. He didn't say what, but he told me that he had never had sex either. I couldn't wait for school to end that day. I waited impatiently for Kevin to arrive. He arrived a while later with a sex book, and we sat in my room, intrigued by the things we saw and read. He'd gotten undressed so I could look at him. We felt each other out, him naked, me dressed. He came easily and he got me aroused. He asked me if I wanted to go further. I didn't answer, and he took that as an indication that I did. He stroked me through my jeans and I found myself shrugging them off. His touch on my bare skin was electric. Then it was like lightning went through me and I fell off the earth. Oh my God, that was cool, I exclaimed through my panting. Then he went down on me and I climaxed again. I couldn't believe that orgasms felt even better when someone else made them happen. He begged me to have sex with him. Luckily, I came to my senses and said no, because I didn't want to get pregnant. He was the first guy I tried a blowjob on, though, and we did have a great time doing everything except having intercourse. I did wish we had some condoms, though. If we had, I would have had sex with him several times. After he'd gone home, I thought about what Daddy had said about sex. Our playtime could have easily gotten out of hand. We hadn't made plans to sleep together, but we had gotten so carried away, and we weren't even girlfriend and boyfriend. I decided to be safe rather than sorry in the case we ever decided to. As Daddy was watching TV, I came over and sat across from him. Dad, are you going to freak out if I tell you something? He hit the mute button on the remote and looked at me. Depends what it is. I began to get even more uncomfortable. I guess I took too long in answering when he remarked, just spit it out. I want to get on the pill, I finally managed to say. Daddy's eyes widened. You're only 15. I'll be 16 soon. You thought I was doing it when I was 13. God only knows why, though. He ignored that comment. What brought this on? Is one of the guys pressuring you? Is it Kevin or David? I shifted position. None of them are pressuring me. I saw Rick and Carol doing it a few days ago. The rest of them say they have done it. Me and Kevin are the only ones that haven't. Maybe David hasn't either, I don't know. The rest of them are 3 and 4 years older than you and Kevin. If you're not in a serious relationship, you shouldn't be having sex with someone, not even Kevin. But I want to know what all the fuss is about, I protested. I hadn't wanted to admit that, but it was true. He lectured me some more about sex and said he wasn't letting me get on the pill. The next day he'd changed his mind because if I had unprotected sex, he didn't want me to get pregnant. He also knew that him saying no wouldn't stop me from trying it. He wasn't happy at all about it, and I could see his point. I just thought I knew better. Daddy allowed the band and Cole to come over one night. Then he disappeared to the neighbor's house, leaving us to party by ourselves. Kevin and I were alone in the kitchen when he told me that Daddy had lectured him about sex too. He said that Daddy had hoped he and I would wait, rather than having sex just to try it out. I hate that he did that. I didn't put him up to it, I replied. I know you didn't. I told him that we hadn't planned on doing anything. I learned some stuff too. He grinned. I grinned back and he leaned in to whisper, I did it with Wendy last night. I stared at him with my mouth open. I was a little jealous that he'd done it with someone else other than me. I had wanted our first time to be with each other because we were best friends. Voices began calling us from the living room. I thought that we'd be each other's first, I said to him. You never told me, he replied. We just stared at each other until Rick walked into the kitchen looking for us. Cole, who had been trying to get me to go on a date with him since we'd met, said to me, Sweet 15, never been kissed. I wondered if he even remembered kissing me after our band's first concert. She's never done nothing, Kevin kidded. I sure hoped he wasn't going to brag about the making out we'd done. And the thing was, we had kissed when we were making out. You guys don't know what I do or don't do, and I ain't about to tell you, I replied. Carol took an empty pop bottle and placed it on the floor so we could play spin the bottle. Let's at least give her a first kiss. I spun the bottle and it pointed at Kevin. He bounced over to me and smiled broadly before declaring, I get Sweet 15's first kiss. He leaned towards me and gave me a lingering kiss while Cole tried to get him away from me. Hey, that should have been my kiss, Cole remarked. I surprised everybody, including myself, by leaning over and kissing him. He took advantage of the situation and asked, Does this mean you'll go out with me? I coolly replied, Maybe. As the game went on, I got to kiss Rick and David, but so did Carol. I thought it kind of weird that they didn't seem jealous of each other kissing other people. I bumped into Rick at the 7-Eleven after school let out the next day. We leaned against his car talking. We got to a point where I got quiet. What's up? He asked. I looked away, then looked back at him. I took a deep breath. Y'all keep talking about sex when we practice our songs, and I know you and Carol do it. So, I want you to be my first, I said, avoiding his eyes. I heard him sigh. You know I can't do that. What do you want? Me to hurt Carol? Or me to get arrested for delinquency of a minor? You know your dad would kick my ass. You kissed me last night, I protested. That was just a game. It wasn't real. I would never have kissed you if I'd known you'd take it this way, he said in exasperation. Yeah, but I bet you're good, I said, trying to tempt him. Carol isn't complaining, so I guess so. But you can just stop right there because I can't do this. Besides, we do it because we love each other. You just have a crush on me and you need to find someone else to have a crush on. Kevin, David, and Cole are available. Get to know one of them. We don't mean to pressure you. Wait until you really love someone before you have sex with them. All right, I'll look at other guys. No more crush on you, okay? No more lusting after you, I replied seriously. Maybe if I'd given him time to think about it, he would have agreed, but I was in too much of a hurry. I talked with Kevin about his first sexual experience. I asked him some really personal questions, but he answered them. I was glad that I asked because there were several things he told me I hadn't known. I asked him if he'd used a rubber. No, Wendy's on the pill. If I was a guy, I'd never trust a girl that says she's on the pill unless I really, really knew her. What if she isn't? Or what if she forgets a pill and gets pregnant? Man, if I was a guy, I'd always use protection if I didn't want a baby. That's how much I wouldn't want a baby. Do you think she's lying about being on the pill? No, I'm just telling you what I'd do if I was a guy. And I'm saying that shit happens sometimes when we don't want it to. The next day after school, we were gathered at Rick's house to practice. Cole was there too, and for the first time he wasn't bothering me or acting like a jerk. When we paused practicing, he asked, Angel, will you please go to the movie with me tonight? I double-checked to make sure it was really Cole that had asked me to go out with him. It was him, all right, same dark, handsome guy with that cocky smile. Yeah, I told him. Everyone turned to view this monumental moment. Cole delightedly exclaimed to everybody, Angel's going out with me. Don't have too good a time, Rick remarked jokingly enough while giving me the evil eye. I didn't comment because I didn't want him stopping me. 2 hours later, Cole took me to see a movie. He had his father's car for the night. I had overheard him tell Rick that his parents wouldn't be back until midnight. He was really nervous. He brought us pop and nearly spilled it as he handed the cup to me. Partway through the movie, I glanced at him because I felt him staring at me. I smiled at him and I saw indecision in his eyes. His expression turned serious as he moved closer and kissed me. I let him. After the movie, he asked if I wanted to stop at his house for a while. He didn't tell me we'd be alone, but of course I already knew that. We walked through the snow to his father's car, and I said, yeah, okay. I knew what was going to happen, and I anticipated it. I wanted him to make love to me and take away my virginity. People talked about sex, and I wanted to know what it was like. Who better than Cole to find out? Although Kevin and I were just friends, I was still miffed at him for not being my first. I also felt burned by Rick when he turned me down. Cole turned on the TV and sat beside me on the living room sofa. He kissed me and the room began heating up. When he eased his hand under my shirt, I pushed him away. I had to give some resistance. We went back to making out. When our clothes were off, I found that Cole wasn't as skillful as I thought he'd be. He slipped inside me and I felt a sharp pain, then it felt good. Then it was over. I knew then that sex was overrated. I had really expected satisfaction, too. I mean, Kevin and I didn't even have sex, but he made me come. It was really frustrating, and I didn't understand it all. He dropped me off at my house. Daddy was watching TV. I knew him well enough to know that he hadn't been watching the clock. So, how was your date? He asked. You can freak out now. I know you didn't want me to, but I did it with Cole tonight. Daddy was staring at me. You fucked him? He yelled. My eyes widened in disbelief. I had only heard him say the F word a couple times. I'd said enough times in front of him, but he just never said it. With his fiery eyes on me, I said, yeah. Go to your room before I beat you silly. We'll talk about this tomorrow. I exited quickly. In the morning, Daddy was already up as usual. I wordlessly sat at the table, scared to death of what was to come. He turned from the stove to face me. I could tell he was still very angry. Why did you do it? You don't love him. We talked about this before. One-night stands aren't the way to go. This was your very first date. My God. I had a rather sleepless night thinking about it all. Rick and Carol do it. Kevin and Wendy do it. I wanted to experience it too. I'm on the pills that the doctor gave me. He was silent for a moment. That's why I let you get the pills. You don't want to end up pregnant. I'm disappointed in Kevin too. He's going to get an ear beating next time I see him. This deal about your friends doing it doesn't rate with me. Next thing you'll be doing drugs because your friends do it. That's not fair, I protested. Isn't it? How am I supposed to trust you? You should, I protested. I'm honest with you, and I never said I'd be celibate. I told you I wanted to know what it was like. He took the opportunity to lecture me about sex and drugs as well as peer pressure. I listened uncomfortably, for I had recently discovered that everyone in the band except Kevin and I liked to get high, and he was looking to join them. When he was finished, he looked at me and asked, well, sex everything you imagine? Hardly, I muttered. I think I almost saw him smile at that point. It will get better. However, this does not mean that I am encouraging you to keep having sex. Unfortunately, I know you're going to. I see that right now. All I can tell you is to continue being responsible. He proceeded to reheat our breakfast. I tried to get him to talk about the sex he was having with Mary, but he wouldn't talk about it. He said it was none of my business. How long am I grounded? I asked. He stared me straight in the eyes. I had thought about making you quit the band. Since we've had this talk, I've decided to put you on probation instead. I was glad about the band, but I thought the probation part was funny. He informed me that it was not. That same day, I arrived at Rick's house a little bit later than usual. His wacko mother, Betty, showed me in and directed me to their garage. As I got close to the garage, I could hear Cole bragging to our friends. Yeah, guys, I broke Angel's cherry last night. She was so hot for me that she couldn't wait to jump me. I was glad Rick's mother was out of hearing distance. I stepped inside the room and they all turned to get my reaction. I knew they could see the fire in my eyes because they all looked rather scared all of a sudden. I walked up to Cole, who was embarrassed at being caught bragging, and I said to him, "Do you know what I think about your big mouth?" I didn't give him a chance to answer. I punched him good and hard. He recovered quickly. "You bitch," he spat. "Fuck you. You weren't supposed to tell everybody. Why didn't you keep your fucking mouth shut?" I snapped at him. "You didn't have to hit me. I ought to hit you back 10 times harder." "You lay a hand on me and I'll beat the shit out of you," I threatened. Rick intervened at that moment. "You promised not to hit anybody," he said as he glared at me. "What the fuck?" Rick's mother came in the room because of the yelling. After she left, Rick started on me. He told me that he wouldn't put up with any fighting. I argued with him until he threatened to throw me out of the band if I said one more word to him. "Get him out of here," I replied very seriously. Rick gave Cole the boot and things settled down some. We did have work to do. When we took a break and the others went to the cooler for sodas, he yanked me outside. "I can't believe you fucked Cole. I told you to wait until you were serious about someone, until you were older. You don't give a damn about Cole," he said angrily. "God, you sound like my dad," I replied in exasperation. "Why is this any of your business? I told you that I was going to leave you alone from now on. Isn't that enough?" I asked as I crossed my arms and leaned against the house. He pulled out a cigarette and lit it. "It's my business because it's hard enough to keep out of trouble when you're in love and having sex, but when you're doing it for the hell of it, why would you want to risk getting pregnant and ruining your life?" "I'm on the pill now." "The pill, rubbers, and all the rest doesn't always work, okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Didn't your dad—" "Hey, what's going on out here?" asked Carol's voice into the darkness as the screen door clicked behind her. She walked over to us. "Rick, what are you two doing?" she asked in alarm. "Nothing," he said as he puffed out a cloud of smoke. "I was just lecturing this little girl about doing stupid things before she's old enough to do them. She doesn't need to get pregnant just because she doesn't want to be a virgin anymore." Before she could reply, I said, "And I told him it was none of his business. If Cole hadn't blabbed, then none of you would have known." "Oh," she replied in relief. She glanced at Rick and at me and said, "I'll go back inside so you can continue telling her about the birds and the bees." I watched her disappear into the garage. "Did you fuck Cole because I said I wouldn't be your first?" Rick asked, nervously puffing his cigarette. I smiled in spite of myself. Was I imagining it, or had he been thinking about being my first? "Nah, but you can be my second," I said as an afterthought as I headed back to the garage. He could think about that now. I heard him cuss as he stood there smoking. Somewhat later, I was home alone when Kevin dropped by. I told him what a lousy experience that my first time with Cole had been. I want to know what it feels like with a real man. "You never said anything about us being our first," he said as if it bothered him now. "We would have been a couple instead of me and Wendy being one, and Cole's no good for you anyway." I blinked in surprise. I was just thinking about sex and you being a friend, not a boyfriend," I blurted out. "Oh," he said with a bit of hurt in his voice. He didn't feel right about it, but when I unzipped his fly and put my mouth on him, he changed his mind. He'd read that it was better for women if they were on top, so that's how we did it, and it was amazing. It was so incredible that we had sex a second time, but then he was mad at me when he left. All I was incredibly satisfied and wild about sex. He'd got me off 3 times.